Alright, so I ordered a move bumper for my 2005 Ford F-250. So the first thing I did was take off the original stock bumper, which was fairly easy. All it was 6 bolts. You have 2 right here in the front on each side, and then we have 1 down here for each side. So you take those off, and then the whole thing just pulls right off. After that, you have to unbolt your tow hooks, which come out of right here, and you can't use your same bolts that came out because they're threaded into the tube. So to re-hook your frame, you have to get some new bolts. Then you take the face plates that they gave you, which look like this, and which go over the top, which hook into both sides instead of just the right side and the left side for each one. So a total of 4. And then we have the plate that'll hook to your bumper, which will hook right like that. So you'll weld that on, and then your bumper will hook to that. And so I will be back after that is complete. Alright, so I've got the faceplate that hooks to the frame, tack welded to the bracket that hooks to the middle section of the bumper. What I did was took a triangle magnet and held it in place on there so it wouldn't move, then measured all the way around to make sure it was even on there, and I tack welded it just in case I did have to grind it off in case it wasn't quite right. Now I'll take the middle section, lift it up onto the front, and then tack it on, and then we'll lay it back down to weld it all the way up. Well, I'm feeling kind of stupid right now. So I ended up having to grind off my welds on here because when I stuck the middle piece up, it came over into here. So these were too far out. So instead of measuring and putting them right in the middle here, make sure and stick them to the edge or whatever measurement puts them on the edge piece of this. That way when you stick your side piece on and bend it in, it doesn't mess with the angle for this. So I've got that redone, and I'll go ahead and hook the middle piece in. Okay, so I've got the side panel tacked on to the middle chunk, and then we have the patch piece which will fit inside here, which we need to tack in. And then the next piece we have is the side panel, which we'll tack right onto here. And then after that, we'll do the same thing on the other side, and then pull it down and weld it the rest of the way. So for the light panels, I took a magnet and clamped a flat piece of metal to the outside, and then hooked the magnet to it so it could have a nice right angle, and then tacked it on the bottom, and then aligned the mounts for the actual lights just up on top. They weren't actually able to connect to the bottom for mine because my lights were a little bit bigger than apparently what they were expecting, but it still worked. Alright, so I've got my middle bar welded on for cutting the ends down on it because it just comes as straight tube, just bent. I took a piece of flat bar and laid it across and then marked each side with soapstone, and then took a portable bandsaw and then chopped each end down. That way it would sit nice and flat across the bumper. And for my 2 side bars, I'm going to take a 2x4 and then to kind of raise the edge up and mark the back with soapstone again, and then use the portable bandsaw and then chop that off to get the right angle, and do the same thing on the top for the bar up there. Now for the light bar trim, I took a magnet again, hooked it to the front, and then laid it on top, and then made sure it was even across, and then I'll tack it on each side. Just make sure it's where I want it. Now they also give you these which are to mount your light bar, which they show they're to hook to there. Now I won't be using mine because the light bar I have will actually mount from the bottom, so I'll just be drilling 2 holes in this plate and then mounting it from that. But it does come with these pieces, so you can use those if your light bar does happen to mount from that. Alright, so I've got my bumper completed except for paint. Couple little different things. For the 2 side bars, when I cut it, I marked it and then cut it straight off, but one thing I didn't think about is it's going onto a round bar, so I did have to go back with a grinder and grind a little bit until I got it fitting just right on there. So we'll have to do that. The other thing is my light bar plate. For the inside, I actually had to have it come down a bit inside because it mounts from the bottom, and so the light is actually sticking up a little bit to where it would hit. So not a real issue, you just have to make sure your lights do fit before you weld it up completely. And then for your little hooks here, I just ground down the edges, make sure it's all nice and smooth, and then used angled magnet right on the side, make sure it's square, and then just welded those on good. And I welded them on right where my bracket hooks to the frame. That way it's a nice strong point there. So, but other than that, just make sure all your lights fit before you do weld it up completely. That was probably my biggest issue of anything, is just making sure those fit because they're a little bit different. But other than that, I'll send it in to get powder coated, and then I'll let you guys see what it looks like on the truck. Well, I've got my bumper back from being powder coated, and I mounted it on the truck, fitted all my lights in, and there you go. That's what it looks like. It's pretty simple. You just kind of follow all their instructions. Everything's labeled on which piece goes where. The only tools you really need is a welder and a grinder, and that's basically it. Some other things definitely help, but for bare minimums, that would be all you need. So there you go.